There's a trend on social media that I have taken note of recently. It's not of foodies snapping pics of their meals at gastropubs, or documenting the night out at the basketball game, or even having a quiet night with friends playing board games. Recently, there has been a trend of folks celebrating when their plans cancel. I think we can all relate to it a little bit. Why do people desperately want their plans to cancel? There are, of course, many factors to point to, but more often than not, it's because we are so tired that the thought of getting dressed, getting in our car, going out and interacting with other people sounds exhausting. So instead, we opt to stay in, to sit on the couch and binge the newest TV show and order DoorDash, to stay in our apartment and read a book, to sit in front of the TV and watch CNN or MSNBC instead of engaging in real conversation. We choose to not interact with anyone outside of our household beyond sending Instagram reels. I am definitely guilty of that one. Because I absolutely fall prey to the lure of the couch. Life is exhausting. The mental energy it even takes to get plans on the calendar, to coordinate with friends and family, to remember to respond to that text, and in this city to make reservations anytime you want to go to the restaurant ever. I don't know what that's about, but it's frustrating. And all of that can feel insurmountable. And we do need rest. We do need to take the time and the space to relax, to unwind, to allow our bodies and our minds to just be. But I actually think we're doing rest incorrectly. In this week's Torah portion, Behar-Bechukotai, we encounter the Torah's radical envisioning rest through three different examples. First is one that I've already mentioned this evening, the rest of Shmita, allowing the land to lie fallow every 7 years. The second is that of Yovel, of Jubilee, which occurs every 7 cycles of Shmita, or every 50 years. And that is when all debts are forgiven. And lastly, the observance of Shabbat itself. What struck me about these 3 types of Shabbat or rest is that they are not about retreating from community. Each one is actually a mechanism for reconnecting with others. Shmita dissolves the everyday hierarchies that separate us from one another. During this sabbatical year, the land becomes hefker, ownerless, and everyone has equal access to what it naturally produces. Wealthy and poor, landowner and laborer alike, all are dependent upon what the land naturally produces. No one has more of a claim than anyone else. The Torah interrupts the systems of competition and ownership long enough for the community to remember its interdependence and shared humanity. Yovel, the Jubilee year, goes even further. It recognizes that over time, inequities calcify, families become displaced, and people can become trapped by circumstance. So, every 50 years, the Torah insists on a societal reset. Land returns to its original families, indentured laborers go free, and people are restored to their homes and their dignity. And then, of course, there is Shabbat, which we observe in community, over a Shabbat table, here together at services, on a long walk on a Saturday afternoon, in a lingering conversation over a meal. Shabbat creates what sociologists might call unstructured relational time. Jewish tradition might call it simply oneg, or joy. And in each of these 3 examples, we see that the rest comes not from not doing, but from the knowledge of knowing that you are seen. The knowledge that someone is looking out for you, that there isn't something hanging over your head, that you are valued for who you are. We tend to imagine rest as withdrawal, isolation, turning inward. But the Torah's vision of rest is almost never solitary. In Jewish tradition, rest is what creates the conditions under which relationships can breathe again. we are searching for rest in the wrong places. When we choose rest that is merely isolation and dissociation, it pulls us further from one another and exacerbates our exhaustion. It does not truly replenish us. The rest laid out in our Torah portion is a pause from the mechanisms in society that demand constant production, consumption, and efficiency, and instead insist that we replenish ourselves from the well of human connection. Maybe that means the challenge for us is not simply to rest more, but to protect the kinds of behaviors that actually return us to one another. To set boundaries around the demands that drain our social and spiritual batteries before they are completely drained. Maybe it looks like putting the phone down for an hour before bed instead of disappearing into the infinite scroll. Maybe it means saying no to one more obligation so that we can say yes to a Shabbat dinner with friends. Maybe it means protecting one night a week from work emails, errands, or productivity altogether. Maybe it looks like having dinner over conversation at the dining room table instead of silently in front of the TV, or taking a walk with a friend instead of multitasking through another podcast. The Torah's vision of rest is not escapism. It's restoration through relationship. Because in the end, the things that most deeply replenish us are rarely the moments when we disconnect from humanity entirely, but the moments when we feel most meaningfully connected to one another. Shabbat Shalom.